right, let me get my cell phone off. The meeting will please come to order at this time. The House Education Committee, meeting of the full committee. I want to ask everyone to do as I'm about to do. Please turn your cell phones off and be sure to remember that so they're not on. And remind everyone that we are being televised over the internet. And if you need to approach the desk, approach the panel for any reason, the committee members, please let me know. Philip here, raise your hand, and he will come out and pick up the notice you have for any members of the committee. We ask that you not come up here and interrupt any of the committee members. Today we have 5 bills that Senate bills that we are considering. These bills were heard in subcommittee last week, and as you know, in full committee we do not allow any discussion because we've had all the debate from the audience. All the discussion we want from the committee, though. You'll be able to ask any question you want or ask anyone to speak that you'd like to have speak on this bill. So, without any further delay, we will start off, and I'd ask the chair of the Academic Support Subcommittee that heard these bills to please, if he would report out on Senate bill, because we have the senator here. We appreciate it. On Senate Bill 288, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did hear Senate Bill 288 passed out subcommittee Friday. The committee substitute bill. Language on the second page. I was trying to find my original bill. We struck one set of language in there about the assimilation. So we recommend it be passed.
Do you say have a substitute, or is there a substitute on this, or just as?
This is substitute one you're looking at, LC 33-1509.
All right. It's in your folder, all right? All right. LC 33-1509. Senator, do you have a copy of the substitute?
I don't, but I think
Philip, you want to give him a copy? Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for having me today and considering Senate Bill 288. I want to thank the chairman of the subcommittee, Representative Maxwell, and his subcommittee for actually improving this bill. This bill is very simple. It's the Grade Integrity Act 2006, and it simply says that a teacher may not be required, coerced, intimidated, or disciplined in any manner and to change a grade of a student. This does not prohibit the grade from being changed. An administrator may, in fact, change that grade. They just simply have to know that they are the person who changed it. This was brought to us, of course, by our teachers. Since I introduced this bill last year, I've heard so many stories of teachers who are thankful for this because they were pressured into changing grades that they normally would not give in their classrooms. So this is really about local control and controlling the classroom from the teacher's standpoint. And I would ask your favorable consideration.
Okay. All right, you've heard the bill. Do I have any questions by members of the committee? If you please just mash your button, remember, and speak directly into the microphone. Any questions? Any comments? I have a question from Mike 22, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this to our attention. Unfortunately, I was a victim of this kind of behavior at one time. However, I'm surprised that I didn't think of it, and I'm glad you did. But I'm just wondering, would there be a piece of document that will follow this in case that teachers asked to do this, or they to present a piece of document, a statement to the fact that they was asked to do this? Or can they ask the administrator to have this documented that this request was made, or you just leave it like it is, or what? I'm not, make clarity for me.
Are you asking whether the teacher...
Okay, can the person that is being victimized by this, can they ask the administrator if they would sign something, or they will forward a piece of document to them to let them know that they refuse to do this?
Well, that's done in the bill. I would assume if the administrator truly wants to change the grade, they'll just go ahead and change the grade themselves and note that they changed it as is provided for in the legislation. If the teacher feels as if they've been violated, of course, they would report that to the Professional Standards Commission. So I hope we got that covered.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I have a question, number 11. Okay, this is good.
Hi, Senator. Thank you for bringing this forward. I understand the part about the classroom teacher not being required or coerced or intimidated. Does disciplined in any manner after the fact, cover a principal or a superintendent deciding to terminate this teacher at a future date, and kind of just fabricating additional reasons for that.
In the Senate, we had added an amendment that dealt with the issue of termination. This subcommittee took that back out. We felt that termination would fall under the category of being disciplined, and there were some other concerns that on the termination issue that Representative Cassis brought to us, that we felt that just to make sure that this bill was clear in its intent, that we would leave it this way without the termination factor. And their GAE and Page were both they both accepted that amendment, and they liked the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kidd. Representative Reese? Bobby?
That'd be me, okay. Yes, sir. I just had a question, not necessarily about your bill, Senator, but about the Professional Standards Commission. I'd heard here a while back, wasn't even in my district, that a lot of these charges that was maybe assessed against a teacher or whatever, and you may not know this, but I'm just curious, was actually sent back to like on the county level, almost like the locals are policing themselves. Can you help me with that? I mean, what exactly is the procedure if something is reported to the Professional Standards Commission?
I cannot, sir. I have no knowledge of that.
Okay, but I just want to know if you knew. Thanks.
Representative Reese, I do know that when that if something is referred to them, and they decide to hear it, they hear it, and and their determination may be to make a ruling, sanction, restore the certificate or whatever, or they could refer it back to the local. They could, be up to them where they want to do it, and they decide whether they want to hear it or not, or what they think would be best. Other questions? If not, it's in order for a motion. Do I have a motion? All right, Representative Dixon, you're recognized for a motion.
Make a motion to do pass.
I have a motion do pass on Senate Bill 288, substitute LC 331509S. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have several seconds. I have a second here. All right, if all in favor, do I have any questions or comments this time? If not, all in favor of this bill, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the like sign. It passes unanimously. Congratulations, Senator, and that's in rules. And
Representative Maxwell will carry that.
Max will be carrying it for you on the floor also. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. All right. And in rules also, all right? Representative Maxwell, Senator Moody just called and said that he was running a little late. So if you don't mind, let's go and take House Bill 515. Excuse me, Senate Bill 515. Senate Bill 515.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill was also heard in our subcommittee on Thursday, and I don't remember any changes being made in this bill. Anybody remember a substitute on
We
this?
didn't make any changes during
During our discussion, we're looking at LC 331500OS, and this was a due pass out of the subcommittee. And
All right.
I believe Representative Dixon was.
Okay, Representative Dixon, you want to go to the podium? All right. We're looking at LC 331500S in your folder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To clarify, it is a House committee substitute to the Senate bill. There were changes made.
Right.
The substitute was brought forward. This bill accomplishes several things, the first of which is to extend the remedial education program down into the middle school. If you see on the first page of the bill, on line 20, it changes so that it reads students in grades 6 through 12 may be a part of the remedial education program, something that most educators have wanted for quite some time. Much of the rest of this bill is dedicated to cleaning up some language, particularly as it relates to the equalization factor in the QBE funding formula. There has been a problem with that for a number of years, in that local systems, when they raised the millage rate, would get the advantage of the equalization at the higher level for that year, and following that year it would drop back down for a year and then go back up. And that was all caused by just a language problem in the law. That is taken care of in this bill. I'll be glad to go over line by line if you'd like, but This fix was passed by the House previously and ran out of time and did not make it through the General Assembly.
So basically what you're saying, this is just allowing us to correct some errors that were in the QBE formula and bring it up to date, keep up with inflation. Is that correct? I'm Mr. Jeffrey Williams. I think he's worked with us on it. Is that about correct? These heads nodding. So is that about it? Okay. Do I have any questions for Representative Dixon? Any questions? All right. If not, then I will entertain a motion. I have a do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 515, substitute LC 1500S, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, the bill passes unanimously. Since we still do not have Senator Moody here, here he is. Hi, Senator. Come on down. Hey, been doing well. You may just. We welcome you to the committee meeting, Mr. Senator Moody. We're ready to take up Senate Bill 413.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to address your committee.
If I may, let me get our chairman to tell us what he did with it. Mr. Chairman, if you would give us your recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did pass Senate Bill 413 out as a committee substitute. The LC number should be LC 33151OS, and there were several changes made in our meeting last Thursday.
All right. Do you have a copy of this substitute, Senator? Do you? If not, I'm going to send you one right here.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a big pass recommendation.
Thank you. All right. Senator Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do apologize for being late. I've been working with Senator Stevens down two floors below on a real important election law bill that we're presenting to the Governmental Affairs Committee and trying to be in two places at once. But Senate Bill 413, those of you that were in the subcommittee will recall, it's a very straightforward bill dealing with making sure that when anybody wants to drop out of high school, that they have to have their parents' permission between the ages of 16 and 18. When you reach the age of 18, you can do it on your own, according to current law. But when you're in that gap of 16 or 17 years old, this bill ensures that you have to have, it assures rather, that you have to have your parents' permission if you want to drop out of school. It also requires that you have a meeting with the principal and your parent to discuss the consequences of dropping out. And I think we all know what those are. The bill was amended in the Senate to include the language that the House Committee adopted dealing with school clubs. And what you have before you now in Senate Bill 413 is another dimension of parental notification, which I believe is very important to make sure that we have that involvement with our students in school. So, Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman,
I like that.
I can elaborate. It's hard going from one meeting to another. And,
These terms.
as you know, the President Pro Tem of the Senate is one that we refer to as Mr. President. So you've just had a promotion here.
I was afraid you were going to say that now. Promotion.
Promotion. But I'll be happy to respond to any questions about this. I can give you much more if you care to hear more.
I'd like for you, if you would, for the benefit, because I had a couple of members ask this. If you look on page 2, Senator, of the bill, and members of the committee online, I've had a question that I notified the senator that this has been asked for us to bring up to the committee. But we're talking about 6th to 16th birthday. This bill has nothing to do with the changing of the starting age for students. Would you speak to that? Because there's a comment I had that someone had said that, the starting age is 7. Is not addressing that at all, or speaking to that. Is that correct?
The legislation does not change any requirement for any attendance by anybody. We're not trying to adjust any age, whereas a student starts earlier or later or finishes sooner or later. And I don't know if Betsy's here, but I'm confident that the legal counsel...
We have legal counsel here.
that this does not change any current law with respect to any age requirement in the code today. It
Okay.
only deals with making sure that a child gets their parents' notification if they want to drop out of school.
Okay. Do I have any other questions? I have 22. Representative Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess this is my day. Senator Moody, I don't want to act naive on this question, but how will the homeschool be handled? Homeschooling, one want to drop out. How is that handled? I mean,
This bill would really be silent on anything outside of public school.
public school, okay.
Yes,
Any other questions about any parts of the bill? Any questions? Representative Jamerson, the light didn't come on. What's your number? 16? All right.
Turn me on.
You're turned on. Pull your mic up there.
Senator Moody, I have a question on the top of page 2, lines 3 through 5, where we actually, since it's underlined, I assume it is a change to current law, where it says mandatory attendance shall not be required where the child has successfully completed all requirements for a high school diploma. We're talking about exceptional children, I assume. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. If a child is able to complete high school, let's say when they're 15, for example, then this would not, obviously they've completed school, they've got their diploma, so this would not apply to them to get permission to no longer attend after they're 15 if they have that diploma. And you're right, they would be exceptional to accomplish those requirements earlier.
15 or 14 or 13, I assume, since no age is stated in this sentence. Is that correct?
Hey, Representative, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a minimum age that a student has to be before they can drop out, not drop out, but before they can actually graduate from high school. I would think that if a 10-year-old met all the requirements, that we would allow them to get that diploma and move on to higher education where they probably belong.
Another?
I understand what the intent is. I guess my question is, if there, and I know there have been those occasions that we've read about through the media where a child, an exceptionally young child, has completed that course of study. But I guess my concern would be that they are young. They're probably emotionally yet still young, and I guess my concern might be if they're not there until at least they're 16. I might have a concern about that.
All right. Question from Representative Kidd. Is that a mistake? But that's okay. What mic are you at? You can stay where you are. What number?
Down at
9.
9.
I like that. Move around. All right. Good.
I'd like to let you know that I have an amendment.
You pardon?
I would like to have an amendment.
All right. We'll, with the proper
When you-
time, I'll
when
recognize
you get to the
for
right
that.
time.
We'll recognize and see what we do there. But any other questions about the bill? Any other questions? Any other questions? All right. No other. Yes. Representative Reese, Barbara.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On page 5,
Pardon.
page 5,
All right.
line 29. It's on the school play. Could you explain that?
Certainly, and again, Representative, this was the identical language that the House passed out of. And Representative Reese, I can't remember the bill number, 661. Thank you very much.
This is the language that mirrored what we passed out, Representative Reeves, a couple of weeks ago. So because this is our exact language. Our exact language. This is the House bill exactly. Section 4, starting with subpart 2A, is exactly our language to the House bill we passed out.
And this requires parents to notify the school when they do not want the child.
That's correct, Representative.
Opt out.
And I
Opt
wasn't
out.
trying to evade your question, but you're exactly right. This is what's been referred to as the opt-out approach to parental involvement in determining which clubs a child participates in school. And it is your identical language.
If you'll notice, Representative Reeves, on that in that paragraph C where it says they'll send it out in the handbook and the parents have the right to choose the class they don't want them in. Yeah, that's right. All right. Yes, sir. Another question. Another question.
That's allowed the local board to decide how they're going to disseminate this information.
Other questions? Anyone else have a question? If not, I will entertain have an amendment from Representative Kidd. Do you have an amendment?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw mine.
You withdraw your amendments. I have no amendment. All right. Anyone else have a question? If not, do I have a motion? I have a motion to do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions, concerns, comments? If not, all in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 413, or Senate Bill Substitute 413, LC 331510S, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Bill passes unanimously. All right. Thank you, Senator. You, I guess, let's see, he's gone. That's it. All right, so we passed there he is. Okay, there you go. Senator, you scared me. Where were you? All right. 610. Senator, you are being very elusive today, Senator. I like that. All right, Senator, you're worn out. Come up. We'd like to ask Mr. Chairman of the Academic Support, House Senate Bill 16. What was your recommendation on Senate Bill 610?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was recommended to be passed. I think we're looking at LC 33-1273. Recommended to be passed out of committee.
All right. Senator, do you have a copy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I strategically placed myself behind some of your committee members, but I wasn't playing a game with you there.
Oh, I know.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Senate Bill 610 is the next one on your agenda?
Yes, virtual.
Thank you. Senate Bill 610 essentially clarifies some confusion in the current law and simply adds 25 words to our charter school legislation that states that nothing in the law today would preclude the use of computer and internet-based instruction for students in a virtual or remote setting. And this just simply means that if a local system wants to elect to start a charter school, which is intended to be a virtual school, that they can do this under our current charter school legislation. And again, the key thing there is the local school system would have to make that decision on their own, just like they do today for any type of charter school. But if they wanted to, there's nothing that would preclude a charter school being established that would utilize computer and internet-based training to gain a high school diploma. This is being used in 16 other states very successfully, and Georgia has been identified as a true leader in this area of utilizing technology, especially because of Senate Bill 34 last year, when we created the virtual charter school that allows students in the state to take advanced placement courses that are not available in their location or school. So Georgia's been a very innovative state in this area, and I think it's time that we recognize that not all children perform well in a traditional classroom setting, and I would only expect a small percentage of students to fall under this type of opportunity, but it would address that opportunity for them, would address that need to allow them to gain a high school diploma within the curriculum standards of a charter school and within the curriculum standards of a local school system. I ask for your favorable support.
Do I have any questions? Any questions? All right, number 22, that would be Coach Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several questions, but I'll wave to someone else asked to. The curriculum on virtual school, how is these guidelines? Do they include ESOL students, special education students? How is that?
Again, in a charter school environment, that would be part of that school's charter that the local system would approve. And I don't think there's any one-size-fits-all package there that would be required. But again, if a local school system felt like it was appropriate to do this, some people believe that they can do it today. The law is not perfectly clear, so we thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and make it clear that, and I think it was 12 years ago when this code section was written in the charter school law, and back then I don't think anybody appreciated the point that we would be at today in terms of utilizing technology to provide education for our students. And the local school system would be able to identify that particular curriculum for their charter school.
My next question, how do you go about, how would this, you go about verifying residents of these particular students?
And that's really important because it's not, nothing that we're doing here is attempting to create a statewide virtual school. The virtual school that's already in place that was established last year by Senate Bill 34 is established to address advanced placement courses and is doing remarkably well. In fact, the appropriation budget that both of our committees have approved added more students to that process, recognizing the success of it. But just like today, we verify the addresses of children that go to a particular school system. It would be done in the same fashion with this legislation, in that the local system and the charter school in this case would go through the same processes to ensure that their not clientele, but their students within the scope of their charter are only allowed to participate in this education.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes, Representative Reese, you're number
Number 8.
8, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I did not see anything here that would limit the number of credit hours that I could take on the annual high school student. That I had a complete year of credit
Yes, you could.
for this, actually attending the charter.
You're absolutely right, and that's exactly the intent of this legislation, to allow for a charter school, if a local system so chooses, to utilize current technology that's being utilized by 16 other states. And if I recall, the number is about 50,000 other students that are participating in this type of education today. So, yes, Representative, you could and would not be limited to the number of hours or classes that you could take.
Representative, this is a little out of order the way I usually do things, but I see a parent sitting back there, I think attended our subcommittee. You hear the parent that had the child, did she stand up? The parent that was here that has her child in the virtual school, is she here? She's not here today.
They are not, and
Okay.
if I could have filled
Yeah.
in for them.
I was going to use them as a good example of what Representative Reese was doing.
And I think they were going to try to get here today because it's a perfect example, I think, of the type of opportunity we're going to allow some children. Kathleen came to our Senate committee meeting on this, and also the subcommittee meeting that was chaired by Representative Maxwell, and made a short presentation. But here's a youngster that both her family and her admitted that a traditional classroom setting was not something that she was doing very well in. And I think we all recognize and can remember times in our own lives when we were growing up that for whatever reason, maybe we needed to be redirected or to have an alternative. But to make a long story short, this child is advancing very quickly. She is actually in a pilot program right now and is taking all of her classwork through an organization that offers this type of training has scored very, very high. And when she was questioned by our committee members about her level of activities, once she got her work done for the day, she had other assignments that she was working on to get ahead of schedule. And what this allowed her to do is go on field trips, basically, with other students that were doing some of the same work. She is the only child of her parents, and it also allowed her and her mom to travel with her dad, who travels extensively on business. He was in a position to take them along to places like Washington, D.C., where they did actual field trips. And in the process of this opportunity to get her education in a virtual environment, her ability to absorb so much more information about what's going on in this world was tremendous. Not everybody is going to be able to do that, I admit, but there is a small percentage of students that I think we would be remiss to not address the opportunity to give them this chance to advance in that fashion. That's a long-winded question, or answer rather, to a short question, but I know they were going to try to get down here for their third visit to the Capitol in 2 weeks and couldn't make it today.
All right, Representative Dixon, you had a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Question and a couple of observations. One, I don't see anything about funding and developing a funding mechanism for this kind of a charter school, I think, is going to be more of a challenge than a typical charter school. I would have some hesitation as to whether or not there are going to have to be some guidance from legislature or from State Department to guide local systems in that part of it, an endeavor. Also, if a student is able to take their whole year's work in a virtual charter school, I have a little concern about physical education. That's not a whole lot of phys ed, just moving the mouse around, so I think that may be something that needs to be explored if this becomes a viable alternative too.
If I may respond to that,
Sure.
Representative, the young lady that was here rattled off several activities that she is involved in that very area. And again, I think her time was being, she actually ended up with more time to apply herself in other activities like athletics, like
Dance. She was in dance and tumbling, gymnastics.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure if every child can do this. Keep in mind that some children that could be handicapped could also apply to this, that here again, for whatever reason, could not fit in to a special education structure of one of our schools, but yet could work very well at home in their own peaceful environment in a pace that was challenging for them. I think, again, that's another small percentage, a fraction of a percentage of students that could potentially advance with this type of opportunity. But it's a good question. Physical education is one of my concerns as well.
The young lady who was at the subcommittee meeting, she certainly is an exceptional student, and her presentation was well done. She represented herself well. But I think you're right. I think homeschooling is, in terms of when we have a student who's out for an extended period sick, that's another option I think this might fit well with. The other concern, in thinking back to my years as a principal, you had a lot of good students who chose with their parents to go to be homeschooled, and that, that's fine if that's for them. But you also had those students who had some kind of problem at school. They got into a fight or something, and mom and dad got mad, and that's the reason they went to go homeschool. I'm a little concerned that if this is available, that becomes the avenue that parent goes to then, and would be very little guidance for that child. I'm a little concerned about that aspect of it. Again, I support this. I think it's a good idea, but I think there are some concerns that we're going to have to look at as it gets developed.
The extreme side of that is potentially a child could literally go to some type of boot camp for half a day and study his academics for the other half of the day in some of those situations. So, and that's exactly why this is left somewhat up to the local system to determine the kind of charter school they want to be. But I think the possibilities are numerous in terms of addressing the needs of a wide variety of children out there, some of which could be discipline related, others physically related, someone who is disabled, and I'm sure there's a lot more in between that I haven't thought about.
All right, Representative Benton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to kind of piggyback on something that Representative Dixon said about funding. Am I correct in assuming that there is some type of profit management company that's going to be doing this virtual school?
The pilot that's going on is being done by a company that specializes in this area.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a representative from that company today, if you'd like to hear from her.
Is that Connection Academy?
Yes, it is.
Do you have any idea what they're going to charge for this?
I am not sure what each individual class would cost, but I do think it would have to be a win-win solution relative to current costs of a local school system versus providing this. So in a free market, certainly that type of arrangement could not succeed if it wasn't a win-win both for the local system and a third party.
But you've only got one company, so that's going to be a monopoly.
Well, and I think this type of legislation would invite other people to do that, and they're doing a pilot now. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mickey, but how many other competitors do you have in this area right now? I know there's.
There are at least two other private for-profit companies and multiple local folks who might develop something very similar and choose their own course. So there's no
Well, and again, our intent here is to generate additional competition and not constrain the free market and the development of other solutions, because here again the technology is changing rapidly, and I think it's appropriate to try to stay abreast of that.
Can I continue, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
another question.
A couple more questions here. What about the pupil-teacher ratio? What are we looking at here?
I don't have all of those numbers memorized. Typically in this type of environment, and it really works both ways, you can have a larger number of students, but because the time is spread out over a larger part of the day, the teacher is able to spend more or provide each individual student with more quality time. So I don't know, again, if that public school system would like to quantify that ratio, I'm sure that could be done in the charter itself.
One other question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Another question.
Would there be any type of cap as to the number of students that could enroll? Because if you don't cap it, that could adversely affect the school system. Could it not?
If I may ask a question, how would it affect the local school system if that cap were?
Well, if they're doing virtual school and the system has all the accommodations for them to have been going to the school, what's that going to do to?
In that case, I don't know why, if there was an enrollment issue, and if the school was having difficulty in attracting students to its system to offset its underlying cost structure, I really would not think that they would invite this type of solution in their school system at that time, because they could do things, similar things potentially to address a small percentage of it. But let's look at the other side of this thing. As of, earlier this morning, we had our committee hearing on the class size reduction bill. And we're hearing a lot of testimony from the large school systems, Cherokee County, Henry County, the systems that are just exploding. Well, look at the opportunity here to take advantage of technology for a small percentage and potentially delay a major construction project that would have to be done immediately, whereas you could use this to gradually get to that other requirement for more bricks and mortar. So I really think it could work in a positive fashion, that a local school system could use this to augment their needs. And if for some reason they no longer, or if they did not have the enrollment to fit with their capacity, then I wouldn't think a local system would consider a charter school under these.
I think that's the key, that
scenario.
local systems have to prove this. This is still up to the
Absolutely.
local system. It's still a public school.
Good,
Local.
good question, though.
Yeah, great question. All right, I have a question. Is that Representative Morgan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you might have addressed a couple of these. I'm sure you know we're all running between meetings. How many students would benefit from this bill?
We feel like it's a small percentage. I mean, you're talking single-digit percentages of students that would probably take this. So I don't have a forecast. We do know that there has been a lot of interest expressed, again, by those students with special needs. I can't quantify that for you right now, but certainly there are students that are trying to take advantage of this if it were to be offered.
I think one thing to remember, too, we passed, as you said, I think it was Senate Bill 33, the virtual courses, and they have really caught on, and it's been very helpful, and this is just another pilot to see an opportunity to see what it will do.
So this would do the same thing, except it's for charter schools? So in other words, with what we passed last year, charter schools could not take advantage of this?
What we did last year in Senate Bill 34 was created the Georgia Virtual School. And that is a separate school that allows students to take advanced placement classes. This, on the other hand, and that school was set up by the state, basically. This would be set up by the local school system, if they wanted to, it's not mandated, as another tool in their tool chest within the charter school legislation that's in place today. I can't remember if you were here initially, but we're only adding 25 words to the existing charter school language, and we're not tweaking anything in it except to say that you could offer computer-based training within a charter school in
So
a virtual environment.
here's my last question, and it's going to be an all-encompassing question.
Okay.
So work with me on this one. So a school board gets an application for a charter school, and in that application, they are wanting to do a virtual charter school as well. Is that correct? Like, are they offering classes, or the entire school is a virtual school?
It's my feeling about this is that the request for a charter school would be for a virtual charter school, not a combination of two.
So what would be the difference between this virtual charter school and, let's say, students who are homeschooled that may take online type courses?
That's a good question. And there's a huge difference because, as you well know, a charter school is part of our public school system. And a charter school follows, the charter school follows the direction of the public school. They're at the discretion of the public school system is what the charter school follows. So and I've gotten off track here. My phone was ringing, and I started thinking about it. Something
Those
else.
virtual phone calls,
Virtual phone calls. Yeah, but I don't know if I answered the question, but you wouldn't have the two combined. And what was the rest of your question?
Well, I was asking about the difference between a student being homeschooled.
Thank you.
Could a parent say, well, I'm going to have a virtual charter school, and it's just one child, mine?
Got to.
The local school system would have to agree
Prove
to
it.
the charter school, and I don't think any local school system would agree to educating a single student or even a handful of students in a environment The neat thing about this that's different from a traditional homeschool environment is the public school system would determine the curriculum. And at the end of this, the public school system, if the student meets that curriculum, would actually be granted a high school diploma
From that system, yeah.
from that system.
Last question.
All right.
So charter schools that are existing now, are they able to implement any of this virtual charter school stuff?
That's a very good question. And the charter school, the charter of a school that's been granted by a public school, I suspect today does not address any virtual education opportunities. You bring up something that is a very interesting scenario to look at a combination of a traditional school setting, yet complement it with this. And that's one opportunity that I think could be explored, but I do believe the bigger need today is to look at this as an independent virtual school as a charter underneath the public school system.
All right, we have a couple of questions. I'm gonna call you to it now. It's down, I think it's Representative Kidd, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having trouble understanding why this bill is necessary, because it seems to me, and convince me, but it seems to me that any child or even any group of children informally can begin taking virtual school through the system we just established last year, courses, and accomplish the same thing without having to go through this charter system and using a profit entity instead of this Georgia State's virtual school that's already adopted and accredited by the state.
Well, certainly the Senate Bill 34 last year was intended to address the advanced placement classes in a virtual setting where students could not take advanced placement in physics or calculus because that system simply did not have the teachers for that. In the case of, and I just lost my thought there, I was going to make another really good point. Oh, the need. And it's getting late in the day, Mr. Chairman. I had a real good point there, and it slipped my memory. But
well, maybe I can remind you of
do.
it by saying something. I remember. I mean, the virtual school that we passed last year did not preclude. I mean, was not limited to just AP courses. That was seen as a benefit. But it really, I think the courses are pretty widespread in general, in that it covers could cover, if there was a demand for it, the entire curriculum.
Again, that is a state school, and all we're doing with this is allowing a public school to get more involved and to have more of to have more control of that charter and virtually expand it. I'd like to think that someday the virtual school that exists today in Georgia could potentially be expanded. But again, that is a state school, and I'd much rather see the local systems get involved to take advantage of curriculum. And much like we buy textbooks today from third parties that are for-profit companies, I think we'll start to see the partnering that goes on with a third party to deliver some of the technology or some of the solutions that technology allows us to use in the same fashion. So I think that the nature of a third party being involved in the curriculum delivery is no different than what we do with buying textbooks today. So I think, personally, I feel like we're doing things in parallel here because of the technology is out there. And again, Representative, this would only apply to a small percentage of students, and our virtual schools today, or our virtual school in the state is not large enough or staffed enough to do this on a statewide basis, and I think it'd be difficult to determine which students we would want to allow to participate that on a statewide basis until we get some more track record with that. This, on the other hand, with the local control within the confines of a charter school, just like it's set up today, I think is much more manageable at the local level.
Mr. Chairman, just one more follow-up. If a school contracts with an outside company for this virtual classroom or curriculum, is their money provided by the state reduced in any way?
What you got to realize, this is a group, just like a charter school. A group of parents can approach the Board of Education, and you remember in the charter bill we said they could say, we want to start a charter school. We want this to be a virtual charter school using the technology or whatever. The local board would have to approve it. Has to be open to the, just like the other schools in that area, to children that want to attend. And the money follows these students just like it does under the charter board. The State Department would fund those bills. There's no capital money, I don't think, with it. I can't remember what the restrictions are. Our legislative council can help us. But all of the FTE count money would go with them, so it follows them just like that.
So that FTE money would be used to
With that-
purchase these services from an outside company?
Isn't that correct? I mean, the money follows them. If a charter school is approved, the money, am I not correct, Betsy? It follows that student in that, if the board, because it's still a public school, right. And so that money will go with them, yes. And then it's up to them, whatever. The state board still, the local board still controls that school. Okay. I have a question from Representative Williams. One question.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
You've had a couple, all right.
Oh, yeah. I'm not restricted, am I?
I'll give you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In all due respect, Senator, there seem to be a lot of question on this particular bill. I have several others. I'm concerned about funding, curriculum and enrollment, FTE funding, and other things. At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
All right. I have one more question. Representative Jeff Maxwell.
I have a statement. I believe the Senate Bill 34 passed last year was virtual high school.
It was.
High school courses.
Virtual high school, right.
And the young lady that came in and talked to us was like a third grader, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all,
could be any.
All spectrum of ages there. And I was also going to be asked to be recognized for a motion.
All right, I have a motion here. I'll hear your motion, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I on?
You're on.
No, I'm not.
What's your 20?
22.
22, you're on.
Quite. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that this bill go back to study committee for more studies so that we can get a clear understanding of what's going on here.
All right, you hear the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any questions or concerns or comments? All right, all in favor, you hear the motion. The motion is that this bill be referred back to a study committee for more study. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed, raise your hand like that. Your motion fails 8-6. All right. Do I have it? All right. This time I'll entertain another motion. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask for reconsideration.
All right. You have that right. Reconsideration. All in favor of reconsideration of that motion, please, of that defeat, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. All right. Now this floor is open for another motion from Representative Maxwell. We have a motion from Representative Maxwell to do pass on Senate Bill 610, LC 331273. Have a second? Any questions, comments?
I'm ready, Mr. Chair.
Ma'am?
Unreadiness.
I can't hear you.
Unreadiness.
Unreadiness?
Just wanted to make a comment.
Oh, you want to make a comment? Okay. What's your number?
10.
Parliamentary procedure, all right. Number 10, yes. What's your comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say to the chair and to the author of this bill, I think in theory this is good, except I still have a lot of reservations and a lot of questions, and I'm real curious about when you talk about funding, and especially now with the IE Squared commission that's studying these funding issues. I wish that this too could be considered, because I wonder, as Representative Kidd asked about the funding source and if the money is going to follow the child in terms of the FTE count, is that comparable to what it would cost to educate a child in a classroom, a physical classroom versus a virtual classroom? So I think that's an important question, and we don't know the answer to that unless you do, to the author of the bill. So I just wanted to state that I'm unready about voting on this legislation because I don't think we have all of the answers to very, very important questions.
All right. 17, David Representative Casas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apparently, these same questions, should the bill receive a due pass from this committee, will probably be fielded again on the floor, since I will be carrying Senate Bill 610 for Senator Moody. And I will say to the committee right now that just like we did with Senate Bill 34, and it passed both houses, and it's been implemented because it is an option that we are offering to the students of Georgia, the same thing, the same criteria will fall under Senate Bill 610. The fact is the local boards are going to have to approve the charter school. The local boards are going to have to approve a virtual charter school. And so therefore, those questions will be addressed at the local level and let them decide whether they're going to award that charter or not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 610, please indicate by raising your hand. All right. 8. All opposed, raise your hand, like sign. You're not voting? All right, 8-5. Do pass? It did pass. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. All right. All right, this time we're going to take up Senate Bill 618, and I'd like to ask Secretary if he would please take charge of the microphone here while I go down and present this bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation. Chairman here,
Go ahead. What mic are you? 7?
I'm 7.
Senate Bill 618 did pass out of the Academic Support Subcommittee. I think we're LC 1460S.
Yes, sir.
And that was a do pass.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we have here, also by Senator Moody, was and I want you, the members of this committee, to think about this. This is the exact duplicate of a House bill that we introduced on behalf of the Department of the Human Resources and Juvenile Justice. If you remember, we passed this bill, and we did a House bill and a Senate bill. What happened? Our bill was caught on day 3, the crossover day, and we decided, since we had such a full calendar, to allow the Senate bill, which had passed, to ride with the Senate bill. So we need to approve the Senate bill. It's exactly like our bill, and what it basically does, if you remember, we have these group homes in various counties throughout the state, and these students are placed in these groups' homes by the Department of Juvenile Justice, and these students need to be educated. They're there for various reasons, because of taking away their family or discipline problems or just different kinds of concerns that they have with them. And these students, at the present time, these homes are getting no money for these students. They're having to go beg the systems and trying to get money to pay for the teachers that are teaching them. And what this actually does, it says that the systems where these houses are located, the money will flow from the state through these systems and will go into these homes. You remember we amended this bill because we were concerned that the local systems not have to pay any local monies for this. It all come from the state. So if you look on page 5, you remember we amended that, but we like this Senate amendment better because it actually does a little more. But lines 10 through 13, each local board of education shall be held harmless by the state from expending local funds for educating students pursuant to this code, provided, however, that this shall only apply to students who are unable to leave the facility in which they've been placed. And what we're simply saying is the local boards will not have to pay any of their local monies. It'll all come through the state. As you remember, Stuart Bennett said of the State Department that there are also some grants that are available that they can apply for. But in absence of these grants, the only money they're going to receive is that FTE money that comes to them for those students. So without any questions, I do ask that you give this bill a do pass recommendation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some questions from the members of the committee.
Yes, sir.
First, Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to be recognized for a motion at the proper time.
Okay. number 7. Who's
That was me, and I will be recognized, asked to recognize the motion. We have that.
Okay.
Mike, number 22.
That's me.
All right. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe we just put the horse before the cart. Maybe we should have did the other bill and give the money there. Did we mess up or what?
Well, how much bill you talking about?
That's okay.
Okay.
610.
I know what you're saying.
Okay. This made a comment.
No, so this is not, that thing to do with virtual. This is simply just group homes. We're trying to take care of the.
I understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anything else,
No,
Representative?
no, sir.
Any other questions from the committee? All right. Recognize Representative Morgan for a motion.
I move to pass on Senate Bill 618.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, if you would, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the members of the committee, anyone have a question or any concerns or anything you want to bring to the group? If not, I want to say this is probably, now stand by, because you know these last 2 or 3 days we may have to have a emergency call meeting. I don't anticipate one. I believe this will probably be our last meeting. I want to say that I am very, very, very proud of this committee. This is probably one of the hardest, it's probably the hardest working committee here. I know it is. They work hard. They really don't let things out. They question, they dissect them, but they do what's right. And I want to commend this committee for the fine job they've done. Thank you for working with me. Thank you for letting me be your chair. Just thanks for being here. And I want to thank also our education advocates for the last 2 years, all you've done this whole time, how great you've been. You're always there for us. We can depend on you when things are right. When they're wrong, you let us know. And we want to thank you for all the support you've given us. It's been a great year. It's been a great 2 years. We've had a great ride together, and I think what we've done the last 2 years has been great for the children of this state. We've had some great legislation and some wonderful things happening for our students. The only bill that we have pending now that's in this whole, well, you'll know what's happened to it, that's pending in the committee that could possibly have any action at this time. There's a couple of others, but that would be Senate Bill 594. And this bill is the one about the honors classes. At that time, I've recommended this bill be sent to, again, to Dean Alford's committee to look at. And also, we're working with the student finance group. Is she here today? Mary. I'm working with them. I still have a lot of questions. They gave my phone. I want you to know they gave my phone number out this weekend and said to call me at home, and I got a lot of them. And so I've been getting a lot of calls from parents saying they were told to call me. They didn't know why. And I told them I was selling Vidalia onions. They could get it at a good bargain. But no, that is true. I have gotten a lot of calls. But and another thing, we had one other bill that was heard today in our Academic Achievement Committee, and I'd like for our chair, before we adjourn, to give us a report of this of his hearing today. So, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subcommittee,
What number? Your numbers?
17.
Yeah.
The subcommittee considered House Bill 1625 by Representative Morgan, which was an issue that was probably not on many of our radar screens, and we were very educated on some of the things that have been going on at our local district levels. We did not take any action on the bill, obviously because of the lateness of the session, but we were also encouraged that the Department of Education has taken up the issue in a rulemaking matter, and they have a policy in place. And as a matter of fact, as we were told in the committee today, Superintendent Cox has sent a letter to the superintendents about the issue of students' addresses being submitted to the Department of Defense for recruiting purposes. And so we are very happy with what they're doing. We're going to be watching it very closely. I'm sure Representative Morgan will be watching it very closely. She was very well read on the issue, and we just appreciated that time together. And Mr. Chairman, that's what we decided.
Thank you. One of the last issue now, as you know, next week, it's not going to be a formal meeting, but we're going to have a meeting with Dean Alford. We're asking him to come. I don't know what day it'll be. We're going to try to watch the calendar. and we want to have him come and talk to us about, give us an update of the IE Square Study Committee. And at that time, we're going to have the authors of these several bills that we referred to him to come in, and we're going to ask Mr. Alford to listen to us, and we're going to direct him to try to look at these bills, especially, the PE bill, the art bill, the music bill, this honors course bill, and see that they can, that they'll look at these this summer and when they're doing their study committee for recommendations to the legislature next year. So any comments or questions? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.